Teachers everywhere anticipate the inevitable days of professional development that herald the beginning of each new year. A few may look forward to this time, but most of us accept the yearly sessions by dutifully sitting and getting our annual dose of learning in the traditional knowledge transfer mode to which we are all accustomed. Most of the time, we accept the depersonalized continuing ed with decorum and proper audience etiquette, but every once in a while, well, not so much. One day, my colleagues and I stayed after school for a professional development that we were excited about because it addressed a critical need. The workshop started off well. The presenter was personable and dynamic. She opened by telling us that she was there to give us what we needed and asked for, and that it was going to make life better for us, our students, and the entire world. We all cheered. But as the presentation continued, it became abundantly clear that this was not what we wanted or needed, and she became visibly uncomfortable because she knew she was losing us. She began to resort to the begging tactics that some teachers use when student attention starts to wane. At first, there was the jovial placation. "Come on, gang, hang in there. Let's get through this so that we can go home." Then came the subtle body language indicative of growing frustration. In my mind, I vividly imagined her with steam coming out of her ears. At various points in the presentation, I wondered if she would stomp her feet or cry first. As she continued, my colleagues became even more disengaged. Some participated in mild heckling. Others conversed openly with their neighbors, while the rest simply checked out and started scrolling their phones or napping. Having done my share of professional development, I refrained from these activities, but I cannot honestly say that my mind was as present as my appearance must have led her to believe. After her presentation, she gravitated to my table and proceeded to confide in me her frustrations. As a fellow professional, I was sympathetic to her feelings. I wanted to reassure her that it was not her fault. It's just that we are frustrated by asking for PD that is tailored to our individual needs and instead being given the same old one-size-fits-all training. This one-time workshop model has been proven to be ineffective and amounts to little more than wasted time, energy, and money. As we each signed our name, taking financial responsibility for sealed boxes she had brought, I couldn't help but think how much more effective it would have been for us to be actively engaged with the materials inside rather than her merely showing us a picture of them on the screen. I wondered just exactly how much this presentation and these boxes cost. Not only were we now financially responsible for these materials, which we had yet to touch, we were also responsible for their implementation. As I looked around the room at my team, I saw that many were disheartened. I knew they already had systems in place that covered these objectives, and their plea for help meant that they needed more than just information. Yet the less experienced teachers looked confused and overwhelmed and seemed almost afraid to take possession of their boxes. I could tell then that without more training and support, the students were not likely to benefit from the strategies offered that day. The problem with these one-time workshops are numerous, but at the core is the faulty assumption that the fundamental problem is a lack of knowledge or exposure, when in actuality the biggest obstacle is implementation. On average, it takes a minimum of 20 separate instances of practice to master a new skill. If we want to impact teacher practice, we must explicitly plan and provide effective professional learning that helps teachers through the implementation process. Research compiled by the Center for Public Education has identified 5 fundamental principles for effective professional learning. First and foremost is duration. Professional development must be significant and ongoing to allow teachers the time to learn and persevere through the struggle of the implementation phase. This can take between 15 and 50 hours. The second principle for effective professional learning is support. Teachers need coaching during the implementation phase that is tailored to their individual needs and learning styles. Just like with our students, not everyone starts with the same background, knowledge, or experience, so we need to meet each person where they are. The third principle relates to exposure. From a constructivist perspective, this is fundamental. The exposure to the concept should be active rather than passive so that teachers are able to construct knowledge and make sense of the new idea. The fourth principle for effective professional learning is modeling. If a picture paints 1,000 words, watching an experienced teacher implement the procedure in an authentic context is priceless. This modeling can be either face-to-face or digitally recorded. The fifth and final principle regards content specificity. The content shouldn't be generic, but instead should be specific to the discipline and grade level of each teacher. Like most one-time workshops, none of the criteria for effective learning was fulfilled that day, which is what led to the frustration felt by everyone. We cannot allow this to continue as our students' learning is at stake. As I launch my ePortfolio innovation plan with my colleagues, I will implement professional learning that keeps these principles at the forefront throughout the implementation phase so that I can support my team's efforts to provide authentic learning experiences that give students choice, voice, and ownership over their learning.